Hello again, Andreas here from macOS10screencast.com. In this short review I'd like to show you OmniGraphSektcher coming from the Omni group. Now when I first came across OmniGraphSektcher I saw it's probably not really useful for me because I thought, well, everything that OmniGraphSektcher is able to do I could do in Numbers or even OpenOffice, but it turns out I couldn't be far off the truth. When I had a more deeper look at OmniGraphSektcher. So what it does is it basically draws graphs like the one I've just drawn, but in fact it can do much more than just drawing graphs. So to begin this screencast we will draw our very own first graph now. So let me begin by drawing a graph. To create a graph or to make your graph, make sure you're in draw mode and then just click on the canvas somewhere to make a point for the first point for your graph. Then click on another point somewhere to make the second point, and I'm repeating these steps now for all the rest of the points I'm drawing here. You can draw in between those lines. You see that the drawing tool is snapping to values of the graph like 10 and 8 here. To end your drawing, just double click on the last point and your graph is drawn. Now you can switch back to the modify tool where you can manipulate your graph afterwards, like in this case the first point. And this is the very first big difference from, let's say, Numbers, because in Numbers it's not that easy to manipulate your graph. You always have to go back to your data, manipulate the data in the spreadsheet, and then draw a second the graph again. And this is just too much of a hassle, and it's much easier implemented or much easier done in OmniGraphSektcher. And you can even customize all points or the graph how it looks with these 4 tabs here. In the last tab you see that this point is a little bit off, so let me just correct this one by making it 5.5, and you see that point is now exactly where it should have been in the first place. You can repeat these steps with the other points as well. To select the graph, just click somewhere on the graph. You can then choose a different line type, like a straight line or the average value of your points, and you see the graph changes accordingly. You can also change the point type, and this looks much nicer when I switch off the points altogether. Now you can customize the graph even more by choosing a different thickness or a different color, or in many other ways you see here in the inspector on the right hand side. You can let me just quickly switch back to our first appearance or to our first setting of this graph. Now what OmniGraphSektcher also has a unique compared to Numbers is this fill tool. Let's say we want to fill the area under our graph. Just click your first point somewhere on the graph, then click the last point, then click where you want to have that fill happen, and then as with the graph, just double click to end your drawing, your fill of your fill. To customize this now, just turn on the inspector again, and you see when I go to the color palette, I can set a custom color for my graph. The next thing we will be doing with OmniGraphSektcher is importing data, because it's sort of obvious not to work exactly the way we did previously, like drawing at each point on our own. So what OmniGraphSektcher does, it offers implementation with the clipboard. So for instance, if you have these this poll here and I want to import this data quickly into OmniGraphSektcher, let me just quickly highlight the second column here, and then I copy the values to the clipboard, switch back to OmniGraphSektcher, and then paste the data here. And you see all the points have been imported. The points here in the graph, as well as the names of the points which appear on the x-axis. Now, to customize this, let me just quickly turn on the bar graph here, and you see this is much more informative than before. And you also see that below the graph, this bar here has no name. So to get rid of this problem, you see the text here in this box is just a bit too long. So let me just quickly customize the appearance of our graph by entering a custom name here. And you see the second bar has already its name. It was just hidden under the previous one. Now there are a lot more things you can customize, like the x-axis for itself or the y-axis, of course. Just double click here and enter your custom name, which is kind of awesome, I think. You can also customize the appearance or the height of your graph by clicking on the y-axis. You see this is a bit snapping here because it also changes the x-axis accordingly. Now let's say we want to export our file here from OmniGraphSektcher. Just go to File, Export, and here you see 4 options: PDF, PNG, and EPS also, the most common ones, I guess. But this is not the only way you can export your data from OmniGraphSektcher, because they have implemented a very cool feature, I think, which is called Copy as Image. This copies the graph to the clipboard and is then ready to be imported into, let's say, numbers in this case. You see now that we have image in numbers, which can be customized, of course, like every other image. So the last thing I'd like to show you is sort of a real-life example, just to give you an idea what you can do with OmniGraphSektcher. Here you see in numbers again, I have the visiting statistics of our blog. Of course, these are not the real numbers. And I've made another table here where I entered, or where I calculated sum, average, smallest number, maximum number, to make this a bit more informative for me. So the way it works now, I quickly just copy and paste these values from numbers into OmniGraphSektcher, and for the second import I will choose to set the shape of the points to triangle. You see them accordingly changing in the graph, of course, and just to complete this step I will choose square appearance for the third graph. Now you see here in the pop-up menu there are a lot more appearances you can choose. So let me just make straight lines out of these values here. Now you see this looks very informative. We see that we have a high peak of new, or a maximum number of visitors in the first point, and then it evens out at the end of these 3 graphs. You can also see all the graph points have been imported in this tab here, and we can change the appearance of the canvas and the axis, of course, if we want to. Now to complete this workflow I will just make the area between the graphs filled. To do this again I'm using the fill tool, and you see this is much more appealing now for our eyes, and it gives a good overview of the visitors of this blog. Now, as I said, these are not the real numbers, but I derived them from the real numbers. So you see this step here is going upwards, then it goes downwards a bit, and then at the last point goes upward again. The maximum numbers of the visitors have also changed. Here you see this blog has gone online, and therefore a lot of people were coming to the site. The second month wasn't as good as the first one, of course. And I can tell you what happened here. In the first upwards going part here, I was releasing a lot of new screencasts on macOS10screencast.com. Then I was moving to England, where I didn't have much of time to make new screencasts, so the graph goes downwards. Now that I'm in England, I have more time again to make new awesome screencasts, of course, and you see the graph goes upwards again. To make a conclusion about OmniGraphSektcher, I really must say that when I first came across OmniGraphSektcher, it didn't have much value for me, but now that I'm using it for a couple of weeks, months, I must say I must admit, it's really actually very, very easy to draw custom graphs with OmniGraphSektcher. And if you go to the Omni Group website, it's not that pricey, it's just $30. And I can understand that you don't even want to pay that price. Of course, we got something for you. We have one license to give away of OmniGraphSektcher. To get the chance to win this, we are introducing this time a new point system. This means if you leave us a comment of your most favorite feature of OmniGraphSektcher, this counts as 1 point. If you retweet us on Twitter, you get 2 points. And if you write a blog post about our review and link back to us, please make sure that we get that link. So you might want to go to our website and leave us a comment of a link to your blog post. And this blog article or blog post counts as 4 points. I hope you enjoyed this screencast of macOS10screencast.com, and bye.